Nominated for 9 Oscars in 1996, Howard celebrates the everyday achievements of ordinary Americans with spirited optimism. Despite international success as a filmmaker, in the United States, Ron Howard is still best known for being the child star who grew up in front of the American public. From the age of 6 to 26, Ron Howard was frequently watched by over 70 million people each week in hugely successful, often nostalgic television series including The Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days. As a result of this exposure, Ron Howard became a national icon, epitomizing the all-American boy. In our Oregon South Bank show, we join Ron Howard as he puts the finishing touches to his latest film, The Grinch, based upon the popular American children's fable by Dr. Seuss, and look at how America's favourite apple pie kid went on to become one of its most successful and representative filmmakers, keeping faith with an idea of America that should be out of date, out of style and out of favour, but lives on, thrives even, in Ron Howard's films.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Barney.
Rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on. Join me home. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes one. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. We're gonna rock, rock, rock.
Oh, am I smooth.
From 1960 to 1980, I was on a network show, I think 17 and a half or 18 years out of the 20.
Opie, I asked you what you're doing.
I was holding my breath.
Good. Good lung exercise.
But when I actually started directing, I loved it more than I'd even imagined or dreamed that I ever could.
What's it gonna be?
Houston, we are venting something out into space.
I can see it outside of window 1 right now. It's definitely a gas of some sort.
I know nothing else other than this business.
Hi. Ron Howard. I'm going for the Grinch editing room.
You know, I grew up in it, and so it's my, professionally speaking, it's my world. I'm kind of lost when I'm not on a soundstage or a movie set.
I want to lose the mark 3 at bar 81.
Yep, perfect. No, I just wanted to get the sort of as much magic going in the first piece, and it creates an even better contrast. I feel grateful for a couple of things. One, I get to exercise my creativity every day. And I get to work with people who are extraordinarily creative and be at the center of that sort of swirl. And it's exhilarating. The new highlight in the whole thing is really just the hook.
Yeah.
You know, the Mount Crumpet hook and those cool Seussian clouds.
We have liftoff. Houston, we have cleared the tower in 1313.
Okay, guys, we got it.
Come on, baby. Come on.
What's the first thing you ask about someone? Well, what do you do? And, you know, what's your family like? Where, you know, are you married? Do you have kids? Those are two sort of important aspects of contemporary life. And so I'm sort of interested in seeing how people cope with circumstances when their worlds are challenged. Either their family life is disrupted in some significant way, or through their work, they're challenged. And I just find that personally very interesting and relatable.
Houston, this is 13. We've got a center engine cut off. Go on the other floor.
Roger that, 13. We show the same.
Booster, can you confirm that center engine cut off?
Roger, that flight looks like we lost it.
Fido, what's that going to do to us?
Stand by flight.
I need to know if the IU is correcting for the number 5 shutdown.
Anytime you take a good hard look at just about any profession, it's far more complicated, far more challenging, and sort of difficult than you ever imagined, right? You sort of assume that the ball player can just go out and play. When you get to know a ball player, you realize the price that they have had to pay in order to rise to that level and be that good. You really look at firefighters and you see them going by the street and you kind of think, well, that's, you know, I bet that's hard, but you have no idea how challenging. You have no idea the price that they have to pay at times. And you take for granted, well, they put their lives on the line. You just say it, but you don't know what it really feels like to be that person.
Check that door for heat, Tim.
I love to try to create these sort of experiential kinds of movies that deal with things that can, you know, are either fairly mundane and you realize that there's no such thing as mundane. In fact, it's all kind of interesting and difficult and therefore worthy of looking at. Or take something like Apollo 13 and you sort of say, well, space travel. And in fact, you make that mundane and realize that that in its own way is just another human task of putting one foot in front of the other and doing the best you can.
You got 5 hours until 8 o'clock. Go get the story. No, hey, do your job. Do your job. Don't just take a position because it's the opposite of what she says. I mean, it's like watching a bunch of 6th graders, for Christ's sake.
If I hadn't actually sort of achieved the big dream of being a filmmaker, and had I somehow not been able to make the transition from child actor to adult, I probably would have been either a basketball coach or a journalist. And I loved journalism in high school. And I did a little bit in college, not much. So I think there's a kind of an appreciation for the fact that that's a difficult job too.
Boy, what if these aren't the guys? What if they're innocent?
We chain them today, we make them look good on Saturday. Everybody's happy.
Makes sense to me.
Hey, wait a minute. This is a story that could permanently alter the public's perception of 2 teenagers who might be innocent. And
we tried to say, look, here's how things can go wrong. But here's a guy who wants to get it right. So it doesn't really say that all journalists are A-OK. It just says that some of them out there are willing to really go a long way to try to get it right.
You are so fucking fired.
Does it reflect the sort of optimism that you have about the society in which you live?
I tend to be optimistic about people. I tend to enjoy making films that celebrate, that acknowledge that while horrible things can happen, there are these moments of achievement.
For me, Ron Howard is an incredibly political filmmaker because he talks about the working man and woman. He talks about the jobs we do, about the dreams we have, about the fears we have and our aspirations. He isn't interested in kings and queens. He's not interested in really these fabulously rich millionaires. He's not interested in labeling people as, you know, drug dealers or pimps or, you know, or whores or whatever. He's interested in who we are and why we do things. And that, for me, is an incredibly political move. Now, I don't think that Ron would think of himself as a political filmmaker. Maybe I'm wrong.
A lot of your contemporaries, there's a strong tone of, look, America's in trouble, there's guns, crime, poverty, so on and so forth. This is Americans saying it, other people say it, but inside America, some novels are saying that, some films are saying that. So again, in a way, you're riding a different wave, aren't you?
The world is full of problems. And I like to try to acknowledge the problems in the movies that I make, especially when I'm making a contemporary film. I don't want to ignore them. But what I also don't want to ignore is that, that there are people out there who are struggling around, sometimes to varying degrees of effectiveness, but trying, really kind of nobly trying to do the right thing. And as much as I sort of appreciate the people that point out the problems in the stories, I also really reserve the right to say just as valid is the story about the person or the group of people who, in the face of it all, are trying to do something that you might characterize as noble, or at least correct. On Apollo 13, we used a lot of models. This was just a model built about a quarter scale, dropped it out of a helicopter, and photographed it, making it splash down. I'm not really particularly fascinated by heroes in the kind of mythic sense. I'll never be a superhero, but I like to think that, in a difficult circumstance, maybe I'd rise to the occasion. Maybe a group of us together could get some difficult task done. That really intrigues me, and I also think it makes for powerful drama.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem. We have a main bus B undervolt. We've got a lot of thruster activity here, Houston. It just went offline. Oh, there's another master alarm, Houston.
When I began researching it, one of the first things that happened was that I met with the astronauts. That was about what I expected. Jim Lovell, very charismatic guy. But when I met with the flight controllers, I realized that to this day, the rescue was a very emotional time for them. They didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to do it, but they knew they were going to try. Well, suddenly the story changed for me, and it wasn't just a sort of a cool suspense story. Suddenly I began to understand it as a much more personal movie, and sort of what was emotionally at stake for everyone.
We gotta find a way to make this fit into the hole for this, using nothing but that. Let's get it organized.
Okay, let's build a filter.
Certainly Americans have a feeling of pride about that, the space program and what we've done there. But I think the reason the movie worked as well worldwide was it was about what human beings can do and will do to survive.
The deadly CO2 gas is literally poisoning the astronauts with every breath in and out.
Heads up.
That's a great moment in the movie when these guys, all these technicians get together and figure this thing out.
What's this? That's what they gotta make.
It made everybody feel like something was really accomplished, and what people can do when they work together and when they won't give up to save the lives of fellow human beings.
All right, Aquarius, this is Houston. Do you have a flight plan up there?
Affirmative, Andy. Jack's got one right here.
Okay, we have an unusual procedure for you here.
We need you to rip the cover off.
I want you to rip the cover off the flight plan.
With pleasure.
All right.
What did they think? What did the guys at Mission Control think about it?
They thought it was as close to being real as you could get. And then, they forgave us our simplifications and the fact that we combined elements from other missions, and so it's not 100% factual, but they felt like it was the most authentic, most accurate portrayal to date of what the era was like and what a mission like that was like.
In order to enter the atmosphere safely, the crew must aim for a corridor just 2.5 degrees wide. If they're too steep, they'll incinerate in the steadily thickening air. If they're too shallow, they'll ricochet off the atmosphere like a rock skipping off a pond.
It was about an era in American technology, American life, and American aspiration, and then it fell away, of course.
It was kind of remarkable what they achieved, and sort of tragic that the reality is that if not motivated by the threat of war, human beings are not, at least our country, doesn't seem willing to invest the money in that kind of pursuit. And it's a shame that you have to be frightened into it.
Where is it? Number phone. Bring it down, Fred. Just nose it down.
Okay,
Damn it, that's mine. That's me. Round.
A little more. Come on,
That's
baby.
it. Hold it.
Come on.
Hold it.
5,
Damn it.
6,
Back,
7,
back. That's it. Hold it. Steady. Steady.
9.
Shut down. Houston, we have shut down.
That's close enough, Jim. Good work.
Look out!
You started acting when you were very, very young. Are you glad your parents let you act that early, encouraged you to act that early?
Well, yes, I am. I wasn't dragged kicking and screaming to auditions, and I didn't feel put upon doing the shows and doing the movies. I liked it. And from an early age, I was given the option not to do it, and it just took. I just always appreciated it, knew I wanted to stay with it. By the same token, I won't let my own kids get into the business at this point. I don't mind if they do it as adults, but I want it to be an adult decision.
My wife and I were both actors. I was making rounds in New York, and I went up to the casting director at MGM. The receptionist said, well, Mr. Wilkinson can't possibly see you today. And I said, okay, could I leave him a note? So I said, I notice you're very busy. I'll drop in another time. P.S. I have a son who's a very fine actor. And the next day I got a call saying, bring your son up, I'd like to meet him. Okay, he's 3 years old. So he gave me a little 2-page scene. I took Ron home and we worked on it. So suddenly he was offered a role in this major picture called The Journey, starring Yul Brynner, Deborah Carr, introducing Jason Robards. It was like a game to him. He was just a natural.
When he was 6, Ron Howard made his first appearance on American television in The Andy Griffith Show. He was an instant hit.
The Andy Griffith Show was a top-rated show in America from 60 through 68, and still runs to this day. Has never been off the air in those 40 years. It's kind of a remarkable phenomena here in the U.S.
Now, what's this all about?
I just don't want to work for my allowance.
Opie, I'm very busy right now. Like I say, we've been through all that before.
I still don't want to work for my allowance.
Fine. You don't have to.
Oh, boy!
No work, no allowance.
That's not fair!
Don't raise your voice to me. Now, you get on out of here. I got things to do.
Did you think you were playing an all-American boy? This is what the American boy mostly is like, except it's a particular person, but this is what it's about.
I think I began to understand that later about the character. I think Mayberry was supposed to be the sort of quintessential small-town American sort of subculture.
Thornton Wilder.
And within that, in a kind of a Frank Capra sort of everything turns out okay in the end way, my character was supposed to be a real kid, but sort of Norman Rockwell.
What are you doing now?
I was having a tantrum.
Oh. Well, don't get your clothes all dirty.
This is going on in the 60s, when we look back on America being upheaval in the 60s, and yet the American public has completely taken to its heart this fine, upstanding, straightforward, honest, clear idea of what relationship between father and son, between man and man, should be like.
Yeah. Even then, I can remember Andy Griffith saying that we're not dealing with the contemporary South. You know, the show took place in North Carolina, and so it had a kind of sleepy Southern quality. We're not. He said, "This is more like the '40s. This is more like the small town that I grew up in 20 years ago." So in an odd way, even though the sheriff's car was a new Ford, everything else about it was nostalgia. Most of my experience in network television has been about taking a kind of a rose-colored look, kind of a nostalgic look at family life.
But it wasn't just white, small-town America which identified with Ron Howard's television characters.
I think Ron Howard epitomized America in a lot of different ways. You know, because we talk about America, but America isn't just one place, you know. It's a Chicano place, it's a black place, it's a white place, it's a working class place, a middle class place, it's an extremely wealthy place, it's an extremely poor place. I think that Ron Howard reached all of those various groups of people with his performance, though I'm not sure that all those various groups of people would identify with each other, except maybe through Ron Howard. Maybe if we were sitting around talking about Opie or Richie or whatever, we would begin to understand what we had in common. But again, I think it's that great honesty that he had, that he was a person experiencing this world. Not a culture, not a class or some certain kind of person, but just an individual. And so, I think in that way, it's funny because it's very powerful, but you would never call it that.
It's been very hit-and-missy when you look at the history of serious child stars. That is
mostly missy.
Yeah, yeah. Do you look back with a sense of relief and luck that it turned out well and not badly for you?
I look at it as, you know, with a great sense of appreciation and good fortune, and I realize that I kind of dodged a bullet.
So often in this business, that's what happens is the parents are seduced by show business and their heads swell, and then the kid picks up on it and becomes a spoiled brat.
Almost every successful child actor gets almost no work from the time they're about 15 until they're 18. When you're 15 or 16 and feeling pretty awkward anyway, and suddenly you're going in on audition after audition, and they're simply not casting you because they can get somebody who's older than you, and then they don't have to deal with all the welfare, you know, the work restrictions and things. Suddenly, you can feel kind of cut adrift. And I felt that. I felt that for about a year, from about age 15 to 16, and it was horrible. It's dangerous. It's emotionally dangerous.
All right, Bolander, break that up. You know the rules. You and your girlfriend want to do that? Go someplace else, huh?
Hey, Crute, why don't you go kiss a duck?
What did you say?
I said go kiss a duck, Marblehead.
All right, Bolander, you are suspended. Don't you even come in Monday. You're out.
Crute. I graduated last semester. Remember?
American Graffiti really did allow me to make the transition in the public's mind from iconographic child, this Opie character I played on the Andy Griffith Show, to a young adult. I actually had already done the pilot for Happy Days before I was cast in American Graffiti, and that film was a huge success and a kind of cultural phenomenon. Suddenly the network was scrambling around trying to God, the 50s, we need the 50s again. And they had this one on the shelf, so Happy Days was reborn. Although I had to audition again all over again for it, which bothered me a little bit.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race to you.
We did 255 episodes. It's one of the longest single-running shows in the history of American television.
Oh, hi, Rich. Listen.
Al, I'm smooth. Oh, am I smooth. I mean, you got Valentino, you got Gable, you got Fonzarelli, and now you got Cunningham.
We did a show where I actually said, hey, you could get a library card, you know, and it's for free. And you could take books out, and you could meet chicks there. And registration for library cards in America went up 500%.
This is the time observers are seeing America as the armies of the night. The aftermath of Vietnam, crack-ups, coke, riots. And yet it's very, very interesting that this strand is still extremely potent going through. What's your reflection on that?
Again, some of it is nostalgia.
Yeah, but why is it so powerful at that time? I mean, it is nostalgia, some of it, but nostalgia makes you switch the screen on. It doesn't keep you watching.
There is a sense of security and comfort and peace. And, you know, the 60s, the 70s, these were not really, particularly the early 70s, these are not really peaceful times. A lot of successful television shows are about creating comfort. There's something about the sort of the post-war couple of decades, the 40s, the 50s, that just give the illusion, anyway, of having been comfortable, safe, and secure.
Here, what is it next to you? Real close.
Well, that's close. Corinne, you're crushing my cookies. Of course, we know that they weren't that comfortable, that safe, or that secure, and that there were a lot of problems that people were ignoring. And that's kind of what the 60s was all about, was a sort of a wake-up call. I felt that a lot of the trappings of that era were pretty superficial in their own right. And I thought that they were, and I thought a lot of the behavior was kind of silly, just because just the way I was raised or the way I thought. I didn't want to go to Woodstock. Didn't interest me at all. I knew about Woodstock. I knew people who were going to Woodstock. Just didn't even cross my mind that that would be fun and entertaining. In retrospect, I kind of wish I'd been there just to see it. I didn't have this burning desire to rebel. I didn't want to take my money and go out and buy a Corvette Stingray. And I didn't want to get caught in an airport with coke. In my own way, I was trying to be different. And in the early 70s, the way to be different, strangely enough, was to kind of be straight. I also didn't want to go to Vietnam. And one of the reasons that I did the Happy Days television show was to try to stay out of Vietnam. I didn't believe in it. I didn't want to go fight there. So I didn't really know what to do. And somewhere I read in an article that you could get a work deferment if your employment directly impacted the employment of 30 or more U.S. citizens. A television crew is usually made up of about 45 or 50 people. So in my mind, I thought, well, if I get this part, I don't think they're going to let me go to Vietnam. But it was sort of the motivating factor in my saying, yeah, I'll do another television series instead of going on to college and being a film major, which is what I really want to do.
But Corinne was amazing. I mean, she touched my chest.
So what?
She nibbled my ears.
So what?
She kissed my fingers.
She kissed your fingers? She must be from Michigan.
So you start a Happy Days when you're 19, and you go till you're 26. So in effect, from the age of 5 or 6 to the age of 26, you've grown up in front of the American public.
And now it's time for your favorite wacky game show, Name That Howard. What is your name? Lee.
My name is Ron Howard, and I'm the star of Happy Days. My name is Clint Howard, and I'm Ron Howard's brother.
My name is Rance Howard, and I am Ron Howard's father.
When I was a kid, maybe 8, 9 years old, people would say, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, my pat answer, because kids develop pat answers, because, you know, everybody asks kids that question. And you get tired of saying fireman, you know, and after a while you realize you don't really want to be a fireman, maybe. But I said I want to be an actor, writer, producer, director, cameraman, and a baseball player. Because I thought it could be a sort of a seasonal thing. But I was fascinated by all the jobs. I loved hanging around with the crew on the Andy Griffith Show. I loved seeing what the actors were doing and the writers. And I began to see that the one person who seemed to sort of interact with everyone and seemed to have laughs with the whole crowd was the director.
So this is going to be the Deed of Daring Do. It's a Kodak national contest that Ron entered. And he cut this in the camera. His mother timed the shots. And he sent the film in to be developed. He spent all of his money on the camera.
Look, there's a Cheryl. She wasn't his wife yet.
His high school sweetheart, and she's flirting with you.
Yeah.
Now this is a kid's imagination.
And you're the fantasy villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Shot the old man dead.
Shot him dead, right there in the street.
From his earliest films, Ron Howard has almost always cast his father and brother.
I was the only decent actor that he knew in the neighborhood. So he asked me if I wanted to be in the movie. Well, I think Ron was kind of stuck, and he offered me 40%. Well, as it turned out, he won, I think, $100 in that Kodak Film Festival. So I was the first in line with my palm out saying, well, 40% of the first dollar gross of $100 is $40. Brother Ron, pay up. He still kind of holds that against me from time to time.
Look, there's the turnoff. Let's try and lose these jokers.
Okay.
I got more serious about my own student films, and then finally directed professionally this Roger Corman car crash comedy called Grand Theft Auto. It was tiring, exhausting, nerve-wracking, and just utterly exhilarating. And when it was over, I just wanted to be a filmmaker.
I'd cast him in Eat My Dust because he was Richie Cunningham. He was the all-American young boy. And I couldn't afford his salary, so I gave him a percentage of the profits, and he was happy to make such a deal. The picture opened on a Friday and was the most successful picture we'd ever had. And he said, I assume you want to make a sequel. He came into the office with a prepared speech, and the speech was, I can almost remember it word for word. He said, whenever a successful picture is made and a sequel is done, the star asks for more money. I don't want any more money. I will take exactly the deal I had on the first picture, and I'll do one other job for nothing. And I said, what's that, Ron? He said, I'll direct. And I said, Ron, you always look like a director to me.
So Roger Corman gave you, in the old-fashioned sense, your first big break.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did that for a lot of you, didn't he?
Yeah. He at the time, prided himself on being, you know, a breeding ground, a kind of a school. And we all usually characterize ourselves as graduates of Roger Corman U.
Yeah.
And it's a.
Because there was you, there was Coppola,
yeah,
there was
Martin Scorsese,
yeah.
Jim Cameron, Peter Bogdanovich, Jonathan Demme. It's quite an extraordinary list of people. It was a good idea because there was no MTV. No one was taking any chances on network television with directors, but there were people coming out of film school for the first time. It was really the first generation of film school graduates. And Roger began to notice, and here were people who would work dirt cheap and elevate these sort of exploitation, these sort of generic exploitation concepts in interesting cinematic ways. Roger's rule was, you give me enough juicy stuff that I can cut into a lowbrow trailer to get the drive-in crowd. And in between those scenes, you can do pretty much what you want. And as long as you don't spend more money than I give you, you can shoot it any way you want.
And I'm arresting everyone! You lose, copper! Knocked him right on his El Asolito! I'm a man of God! I'll drive! Put me down! I've got an
I said just before shooting, Ron, if you remember everything I've said, and if you do your homework, and you do a very good job, you will never work for me again.
There's a sexier way to connect to the web. But whatever you do with the new Siemens C35i, be inspired. The new Siemens C35i.
This Christmas at Iceland, buy a 2.6 kilo chicken for just £4.99. And you get the roast potatoes, the carrots, and the lemon meringue pie absolutely free, saving an amazing £4.27.
In tomorrow's Daily Express, the wedding photographs the world wants to see. The official pictures no other newspaper can publish. It's okay with the Daily Express tomorrow.
I just couldn't believe the effect.
Oh yeah, my cholesterol's going down.
These people aren't actors.
I've been using it for about a month now.
And it works so quickly.
They're living proof of a product that's big news down under.
It certainly lowered my cholesterol.
Tastes just like my normal margarine.
Go, Kira, go!
Clinical tests prove Flora Proactive can lower LDL cholesterol by an average of 10 to 15%.
Absolutely amazing, like discovering a gold mine.
New Flora Proactive can dramatically cut cholesterol.
Lovely.
Typical of that one, showing off her new quilted velvet. Pound to a penny, she'll not have noticed its luxurious new deeply quilted design, nor its sumptuous softness. No, I'm afraid breeding is something what one can't get at the supermarket. Oh, Hercules! New quilted velvet, now even more luxurious.
Can we still drive our cars and have cleaner air? We think so. Today, BP is improving air quality in 50 major cities around the world and across the UK by introducing cleaner burning petrol and diesel fuels. It's not an end to the problem, but the solution has to start somewhere. BP.
Whichever way you hold it, the new Dremel Professional feels right in your hand. Digital technology regulates speed and ensures constant revs for the highest level of precision and control. Every project is easy for the new Dremel Professional, thanks to over 150 available accessories.
L'Erdammer com'è?
È una dolcezza.
Me lo fa assaggiare?
Non posso.
Come no?
Tutti, ma l'Erdammer, meglio di no.
Insisto.
E va bene, solo un pezzettino, eh?
Leerdammer, deliciously continental.
Lo sapevo.
Now you can try AOL for absolutely nothing. Just call 0800 237 237 for your completely free trial pack.
Hi, I'm Ron Howard, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Universal Studio Tour. You know, more movies and television.
Having started out as an independent filmmaker, Ron Howard was soon embraced by the studio system. And with his business partner, Brian Grazer, their films have made over $2.5 billion.
I spent about the first 10 to 15 years of my directing career really trying to prove something to myself and to a lot of other people. Now I don't think about what genre of film is at all.
I wasn't surprised that he pulled off Apollo 13 as well as he did, but I was a little surprised by Ransom. I didn't think he had that that edge inside of him. And I didn't think that he could make Ransom as edgy and as tough as he did. And I don't mean just the story, but I mean by inhabiting the Gary Sinise character and his gang and understanding their point of view as well as he did was really impressive to me.
Want to talk to your son? Yes, of course I do.
Daddy? Dad?
Sean. Sean, son.
I want to listen.
That's enough. No, put him back on. I want to talk to him. You just did.
You know, I don't have much interest in bank robbery or you know, doing a heist movie or anything like that. But as a parent, there's really nothing more terrifying than the possibility of that kind of crime being committed.
A child being kidnapped and...
Yeah. When I read the script for Ransom, I had actually been working on a storyline myself about a kidnapping. Sort of a careful look at both parties. Then I read the script for Ransom, and it didn't really flesh out the kidnapper side of the story very well, but I thought it was fascinating as it related to the victims, the family. The father making this kind of, you know, perhaps arguably insane, you know, stance, this position of challenging the kidnappers. And I thought, wow, I bet we could apply what I was working on, you know, take a look at both sides of it, and in a way kind of create two families and connect them with this horrible common truth. But, you know, there was nothing to celebrate there. It was just a horrible nightmare.
You got one more chance to pay up.
Well, you're never going to talk to him again. No more fucking around. This is it, right now. What's it going to be? No.
Bullshit. You're not gonna touch him. You can't be that stupid. Do you have any idea the rain of shit I can put on you? Look at your wife.
Look at her face, motherfucker. Do you know what I can do to your boy?
Is it dark where you're calling from? You got the shades drawn? Kind of like a cellar, right? Like a cave? Well, you better get used to that. You better get used to crawling in the dark for the rest of your days, because I am gonna get the best group of manhunters in this country, and I am gonna dedicate my life to tracking you down. Hey, get your head out of your ass! You think you can threaten me, huh? Who do you think you're dealing with? Give me the money! Fuck you and your $2 million. Don't you understand English, you useless piece of shit? No money, none!
Let me tell you something. You think you're suffering right now? Huh? You got no idea what suffering is. If I don't get the cash, in 1 hour, this kid is dead!
I don't get my son back, and I mean real soon. You better kill yourself. Because when I catch up with you, I'm gonna take my goddamn time. By the time we're finished, you're gonna wish you weren't born. I'll have your head on a fucking pike. You understand me? Fuck you! I'll fucking kill him right now! I want to talk! You kill him! You kill yourself, you motherfucker! Give me back my son!
Hello!
You want him? Yes! You want him?
Daddy!
Oh, Jesus! Oh, Jesus! No! 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 Oh, God! I'll fucking kill you, man!
I mean, you've had a tremendous amount of success. We have talked about that. You did a film called Far and Away, which dealt with another big experience for this country, of immigration. Now, that film was critically not very well received. How did that affect you as a young filmmaker?
That was heartbreaking. I have to say, it would really kicked the wind out of me for a little while, because I had really dreamed of making Far and Away for a number of years.
Ron Howard's great-grandparents were Irish immigrants who'd taken part in the Oklahoma land rush of 1893. This provided the centerpiece of Far and Away.
My grandfather actually ran in that land race, the Cherokee Strip land race, and he let me play my grandfather.
I sold him that horse. Don't let him bluff you, cowboy!
And he came to me and he said, Dad, he says, I'm not going to let you ride in the race. He says, it's dangerous. We're going to get a stuntman to do this for you. And I said, Ron, both of my grandfathers were in this race. And I said, while you're ultimately the boss, and I realize that, I said, it sure would mean a lot to me to ride in this race. And I said, they did it, and they didn't get hurt. They lived to be old men. He said, Dad, go get your horse.
I think the fact that we made it on such a huge canvas, we shot it in 70 millimeter, I think people thought that I believed I was making a David Lean movie. In my mind, I thought we were making a screwball comedy, or a kind of a fairy tale. Very nostalgic, almost melodramatic. It's the only movie that ever made me, that the outcome depressed me. I think I did learn from it, and I think that the film was probably trying to be too many things, but on an emotional level, it still hurts. You know, it's one of my babies, and you know, it wasn't treated nice at the first day of school.
The issue of pride for us is so critical that it interfaces with a high-budget movie and a low-budget movie. We really want it to be received well, commercially and artistically. And then there are some cases, of course, where it succeeds in both. And there are cases it doesn't succeed at either.
But the cost of any Hollywood film is so outlandish. It's a huge responsibility that I take very, very seriously. One of the things that I'm kind of proud of is, even though you know, the films have done well, if you really look at a lot of the projects just on paper, they're not really high concept, formulaic ideas, a lot of them. Back again. All right. Thanks. You know, I mean, Cocoon doesn't sound like a commercial movie. Apollo 13 didn't. The only project that anyone could compare it to was The Right Stuff, which was a wonderful movie, but was a real box office disappointment.
Attention, attention, Christmas has been canceled. Please remove the decorations. Take down the tree.
The Grinch! Ron Howard's latest film, The Grinch, is based upon a popular American children's fable by Dr. Seuss.
The book was a real part of my childhood, and the character of the Grinch is this sort of wonderful, contemporary kind of anti-hero.
5 o'clock, solve world hunger. Tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. 7 o'clock, wrestle with my self-loathing. I'm booked.
It's very expensive, too, isn't it?
It was expensive, yeah. Fortunately, we were able to make it all on the back lot of the studio, which made things a lot more manageable. But still, it's a big special effects movie. This is probably the biggest makeup job in Hollywood, certainly since The Wizard of Oz.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
Couldn't see, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't scratch myself. The physical constraints of it were unbelievable.
Are you now?
Look, please, just leave it.
Look, I want to know what's wrong with you.
Do I really have to spell it out for you?
Look, Mercedes is going to ask me. I mean, I don't want my little sister looking like she couldn't care.
My period.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. Can I get you?
No.
I'll be right.
Come on. Come on, give my missus a toast.
What's that, son? That's it. Give out the glass. Yeah.
I want us to drink a toast to my wife, Diane. She